Men Reforged, redefining masculinity.
What's up, world? Welcome to another episode of the Movement Podcast with Shepherds of Men. I'm Cam. I'm here with my boy, as always, JP.
Hey.
And we have a really special guest with us tonight, Dr. Justin Moseley, who we're going to introduce some more here in a minute. But appreciate you being with us, man. This is going to be a special night for us when we're recording. I don't really know when you're listening to it, but it'll be a special morning, too, if you're listening to it during the day. But we've got a great message that's going to come from Dr. Moseley. He's been doing some big things over the last, for us, we've really been digging into for like the last year. And he's got some great stuff on the horizon. Has been a big impact to us. We wanted to have him in so he could be a big impact to you. But just as we're getting rolling, this is going to be coming out just before the end of the year, into 2021, which is crazy to think that we're almost, I was just listening to our last New Year's episode. I went back and listened to a couple of them, and it was like, wow, that was a year ago when we were saying Happy New Year, and it seems like just so much has happened, obviously.
It's quick.
I got to give a shout out to our other boy over here for appreciate. We got some new cups, we got some coasters. Pretty awesome, man. That's a pretty special deal.
Legit. More on where you can
have
find
talented
that work
friends
coming up.
Oh yeah, we need to make sure.
Yeah, we'll
drop that in there
plug on
too.
that one for sure.
Yeah. If you like cool stuff, we'll tell you where to go. So, and thank you, O. We're loving the episode. The what is this place called? Studio's looking sexy as ever, and we're pumped about what you got going on.
Studio 615.
Studio 615. Are we renaming it? That sounds a little risque.
No.
You know, if you add the 6 and the 5 together and subtract.
Wait a minute.
Anyways, so check us out. If you're listening to this, you already know where to find us, but at Shepherds of Men on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. And we're going to get right into it because there's a lot of good things happening. Dr. Justin Moseley, local to the Nashville area, North Nashville. Tell us, give us an intro and some of your background, how we connected, and where we're going from here.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for having me. It's going to be a fun night. And yeah, I'm a chiropractor by trade. My wife's a chiropractor as well. We started a practice in Hendersonville, Tennessee in 2012 and built an amazing practice. Helped lots of people, made lots of money, and made lots of impact, and was living a good life. And then in 2018, I went on a men's retreat, and I had a near-death accident. We were whitewater rafting. We got up to the Class 5 rapids, and the raft tipped over. I was in the back of the raft. I actually got trapped underneath the rapid. The rapid started pushing me down, and last thing I remember was, and I'm not coming back up. And I still remember the sound of my helmet like scraping down the rocks, and everything just went black. And then everything went bright white, and it was the most peaceful, serene feeling I've ever felt. And then in that moment, I heard this voice that said, "Wake up." And thankfully I did, because I came back to consciousness, and I was trapped between two rocks underwater. And I tried to push, and I didn't budge. And I kept pushing and pushing, and thankfully my adrenaline kicked in, and I pushed hard enough. I broke the buckle on my life jacket. It was stuck underneath the rock, and I floated to the top, gasped for breath, floated over to the side of the river, and man, I was rocked. I was like, what just happened?
Wow.
And we all question our purpose. Like, why are we here? What's our purpose in life? But in that moment, I asked a new question. I was like, why am I still here? Because things could have been different in that moment. What if I had never heard wake up? What if I wasn't strong enough to push free? Like, why am I still here? And what I realized processing that was, man, I had settled. Like, I was doing great stuff. I was making an impact. I was helping people, but I was called for so much more. And I had gotten comfortable, and I needed to exchange my comfort for my calling. And that's my message for people listening, man. Like, look at your life. Like, where in your life have you gotten comfortable? A lot of people get comfortable in their jobs, in their relationships, in their finances. Where are you comfortable, and what are you called to do? Because, man, life is short. This is real life. This is not a dress rehearsal. We get one shot at this thing. And for me, like, in that moment, I was like, what if it would have ended right there? Is this how I want my story to end? And would I have been able to make the impact I want to make? And that's what drives me to this day. And you mentioned Simon Sinek earlier. We were talking, and he's got a great book, Start With Why. Everybody read that. But I think everybody's why is a little too superficial. Like, yeah, my spouse is my why, my kids are my why. but it's different. It's bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I don't want to get to the end of my life and realize, man, I could have done more.
Yeah.
I could have become more. I could have impacted more. And that's what drives me today is, man, I'm here to go big and to help people to have an impact in people's lives. And ultimately to wake people up to the fact, and speaking of wake up, like that was my own wake up call. I did hear the actual voice that said wake up, and it was a literal wake up call, but then also a wake up call in my life. Like, man, you got to do something different. And you don't have to have a near death accident to wake up. I mean, you can ask yourself that same question I asked myself is, why am I still here? Because you're listening to this right now. Why are you still here? You didn't have to wake up today. I mean, life is a gift. You got air in your lungs. Your heart is beating right now. Why are you still here? You're here because you're meant to go big. I mean, and I'm a man of faith, and Jesus said, I came to give life and give life abundantly, not just to be mundane and go through the motions of life. Like, we're here to go big.
Yep.
And at the time is we got to stop playing small, because we're not doing the world any favors by playing small.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, being a man of faith. And we are too, JP and I both. And that's something that I often think about, especially with the last year that we've had. You know, you hear people say it all the time. It almost becomes cliche that, you know, if you're still here, there's a reason for it. You know, like if your time was done or if your mission was over, then God will call you home. You know, and if he hasn't yet, then there's some reason for it. You know, you might not know what it is yet. You may know what it is, and you just haven't got the balls to you know, jump in with both feet,
Right.
Whatever the thing is. And that's what I'd like to hear more about is, like, obviously that is a wake-up call, figuratively and literally,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but how did it go from that to what you're doing now?
Yeah. So for me, I took a step back, and I was like, man, I know I'm called to go bigger, to make a bigger impact, but I didn't know what that looked like at first. Because, man, I was doing that in my clinic. We had a huge clinic helping lots of people. I was like, man, this is so much bigger. So I stepped back and I was like, man, if money wasn't an issue, if I could just do what brings me joy, helps as many people as I can, what would I do? And for me, I'm passionate about personal growth and development. I read my first Tony Robbins book when I was 16. Still have the same copy of Awaken the Giant Within. And that really turned me on to personal development. And I just poured myself into that. So I was like, man, that's what I'm passionate about. I just want to put out content on mindset and personal growth and development because it changed my life. I know it will help people. But even then, I was like, I don't even know if anybody's going to listen. I'm just going to start putting stuff out. So it was March of 2020. I started my Facebook group, the Mindset Doctor Community, and it grew to 1,000 members in the first month. So I was like, all right, people are listening. So they're paying attention. So then, like, I wasn't there to start a coaching business or to do that. I just wanted to help people. And because I kept showing up and I was doing interviews and bringing in other experts, and that just led to organically people wanting more. So I started doing mastermind retreats. I started doing group coaching. I started doing one-on-one coaching, all because I wasn't trying to see what I could get out of it. I mean, I started this business and multiple businesses off the fact, two things. Jesus came not to be served, but to serve. And the other was a Zig Ziglar quote, you can get anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want.
Yep.
So it's all been about just as much as I can serve, the business actually built itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at it like you can't outgive God. Like God, so as much as I can give, like God's going to bless that. I mean, he talks in the Bible about reaping and sowing. You got to plant the seeds. The seeds is the serving, and then you can reap the harvest on the back end of that.
100%.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. That's one of the things that we've talked about from the very beginning is money being a byproduct.
Yeah.
Whereas people put money as a idol,
right?
Money should be a byproduct, right?
Yeah.
And money is a byproduct because you've made people's lives better.
Right.
Like that's why, you know, you continue to pour out and then God will bless you, you know, eventually. But, you know, one of the things that's really cool about what you did and I would call it a wake up call, you know, kind of like one of those situations where it's like, oh shit. Cause once death becomes real, things change a little bit, right?
Yeah,
you start to look at things. And obviously this is the thing that's really impressive though, is you went from a very successful career, you know, which is one thing to say, I don't have anything to my name. I'm struggling. Like, hell, why not? Like,
yeah,
I'll figure
so many
something.
people will be really comfortable in your position.
We'll do something else. But yeah, obviously. And I mean, if you don't know about chiropractic, if you have a successful chiropractic clinic, I would imagine you guys weren't eating ramen noodles.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and to take the leap from doing something like that to walking away from it to saying, you know what, there's a bigger purpose for my life. I think that's really cool because what you'll do from that will impact far beyond anything you would have ever done in chiropractic.
Right, absolutely. And that it does come back to the serving and the money being the byproduct. Because my wife and I, we did start with nothing. We lived in this small apartment. We're like, we're not going to take a business loan. We're just going to start our practice. And we started just serving. And the money came from day one. We were making money. Yeah. But then it gets to the point, like right before I had my near-death accident, 2018, the week before, I just brought a brand new $120,000 Range Rover. No. Have a near-death experience, none of that matters anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like, it's not about the money. So it's what is the impact that I can make?
And I think I want to hit on that because I think some people get it twisted, especially we were talking about this right before we started recording about, people see this and that, and especially on social media, and they see the highlights and they think it's cool. And some people get it twisted, and there are those out there that's all they're focused on. They're focused on the Range Rovers and the jets and the beach vacations and all that kind of stuff, and that's their drive. Right or wrong, whatever.
You'll never see a U-Haul following a hearse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and so that's my point, though, is right. That, it's one thing to say the SUV doesn't matter, but that's not saying that you don't want nice things, right. And I think that's, especially in the world we live in now, people get this incorrect thought of Christians, because there has been, as in anything, so many people that have done it the wrong way, that when you do see someone that's genuine, that is a man of faith, but they're also prosperous and they're right. living abundantly. Yep. People go, well, he must be doing something wrong. Or maybe he's doing it right.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just doing it really right and he's being blessed.
Right.
Is it does it make me a better person because I have a nicer car? No, but would you rather be in a nicer car or a shitty car? I mean, like, it's an easy answer. And would you rather be in a safer one or a not safe one, or your kids,
right.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen your house on social media and stuff like that. You got a nice place, you got nice vehicles. You just got back from Mexico, I think. Great vacation.
Yeah. Been a week in Mexico. Yeah. And we love experiences and enjoying life. That's what it's about. And because again, it's short. You never know when it can go. When you do face death, it gives you a new perspective. But I do believe we are here to make an impact, and that money can be a byproduct of that. And then the way I looked at it, and it happened early on, we were in practice. We had a patient, a very wealthy guy, and he had a worker come and working on his house. And he was like, man, how do you afford a house like that? And he used that as an opportunity to talk about Jesus and how he served and how he impacted people. And he was blessed to have a life like this. So that's how I look at anything like now. The Range Rover, the stuff that I have is because it was a blessing, and I wanted to be a reflection of God. I wanted people to be like, hey, how did you get that? Well, let me tell you about my walk with the Lord. Yeah. Let me tell you what I'm doing in my life to be an example for them.
Well, I'll never apologize for my success. I think money is a magnifier of your character. I've always believed that good people do good things with money, bad people do bad things with money. I mean, that's just, it is what it is. And to be honest with you, we need more good people that are at a very, very wealthy status.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't look at wealth as good or bad. I look at people as good or bad, which I'm not necessarily a judge of that. But ultimately, good people with money do good things. And when you try to make people feel guilty, the bad people don't give a shit what you think. Like that, to be honest with you, they're going to go make money either way it goes. That's what bothers me about that whole like guilt that comes with making money and stuff like that. Like, in my opinion, the people that are good that might have some guilt from things like that are the ones that we actually need to be making the money, because those people create bigger platforms, create better, experiences for communities and developmental opportunities for people that might be lost, whether it's spiritual or whether it's just life in general, just being a father or a husband or whatever it may be. And that was one of the big reasons why we started Shepherds of Men, is because we talked to so many men that were confused in today's society that were like, should I be aggressive? Because society tells me I can't be aggressive. I'm not allowed to be aggressive. Should I be like disciplinary with my kids? Because society tells me that I shouldn't discipline my kids. Should I be the man of the house? Because now society says that you shouldn't be the man of the house because that's toxic.
Or a man, period.
Or a man, period. Right. And for me, it was just one of those things that was like, dude, if you're doing the right thing, then go full bore, man. Yeah. Be aggressive as possible. If you're a dick, don't be aggressive. If you haven't learned that yet, if you're not mature enough to handle that kind of stuff, then maybe you shouldn't be so aggressive. But if you have something to offer and your heart's right, then be aggressive as possible. Like,
Right,
don't let
yeah.
anything hold you back from that.
Right. Yeah. And money, it's a mindset. And growing up as a Christian, like it's kind of poured into us. Like, no, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to be meek and give your money away and all these things. And it's like, no, a lot of that's taken out of context.
Right.
First off,
100%.
but the reality is, it is about the heart.
Mhm.
Think about
100%.
the money that you make. What kind of impact can you make out of that money?
Yep.
And you look at Mother Teresa. She lived the life that she lived, but it took millions of dollars. She was flown around on private jets, all these things to spread her gospel of what she was doing. Took lots of money.
Sure.
So the more money you can make, the more impact you can make.
100%.
It goes back to what you were saying. You served and then you were blessed, but then the blessing just allows you to serve at a bigger level. I mean,
Absolutely, yeah.
I think where the confusion is for a lot of people is they think you got to keep all the money.
Right.
No, if you got the right heart, you're probably not going to keep all the money. You're probably going to go out and continue doing what you feel passionate about doing and what your purpose is,
Yeah, and I think that separates it, because when you have that type of heart, the more you're blessed, you're going to put it back in to impacting others, and then more is going to come to you.
Mm-hmm.
I think the people that make it and they hoard it, it gets cut off.
Yep.
Like they don't, the blessing stops.
Yep.
Because the blessing is from God. When your heart is in the right place and you're serving from the right place, it's going to be blessed every time.
Yeah,
and again, because I know we have our audience is pretty diverse, as is yours, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But a lot, strong percentage of it is men,
and
really a strong percentage of the men that follow us are blue collar. Honestly, which I love, because I grew up in the country. My dad was an entrepreneur, but he was small business, logging, all that kind of stuff. So just hard working with your hands, all that kind of stuff. JP comes from a similar family, you learn work ethic, and to a degree, I think there's a lot of cuss words. Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So we're those guys that we love Jesus, but we cuss a lot.
We cuss a lot. Yeah.
But I believe, because I've been there, that there's a lot of guys that maybe listening to this that are blue collar guys, or maybe kind of low end of the totem pole, so they think, kind of guys and what they do with their career, or what the house they live in, and all that kind of stuff. And they don't know if maybe they have a voice. Maybe they feel a stirring or a hum, as we've talked about before, for something bigger than their comfort zone that they're currently in. But maybe they don't feel adequate. They don't feel like they're capable of really having an impact. But I believe, and I'll let you attest to this, like, if you really do have the right heart, it doesn't matter where you're starting from.
Absolutely.
Stop counting on yourself, number one, and start realizing that it's bigger than you, and you can go out there and do all kinds of crazy good stuff.
Absolutely. And it starts with surrounding yourself with the right people. And then what are you pouring in? So by them listening to this podcast, that's a step in the right direction. For me, it was pouring in audio tapes of Tony Robbins and Jack Canfield and Jim Rohn, all the people that I looked up to. Because, man, I worked the construction jobs. That's what I was doing growing up. So I know that lifestyle too. But then
you know how to cuss too, then.
What's that?
You know how to cuss too, then.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So surrounded all the time. And even like people think, when they think about vision and making an impact, they have to have this Mother Teresa size calling.
Yeah.
No. What about the people around you on the job site that you can affect?
Yeah.
What if that's your calling right now in this season, to make an impact in their lives?
Well, one of the big things that we've talked about before is one of the biggest impacts, not only that we believe that you can make, but that we believe you're responsible for, is your damn household.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the
absolutely.
things that we've lost, like I feel like in society today is, ultimately the first step is to make sure your house is right.
Yeah.
Because you got little eyes watching you, and not only are you impacting, your wife and kind of your own joy and stuff like that, but the next generation is watching you.
Yeah.
And I often think about, I was talking about this the other day with somebody, and I was like, sometimes I look at my kids and I go, with the way that society has gone, which is our society, which is something that we had another guest on here. Sean Whalen was like, hey, just remember, when you talk about how society's screwed up, that is your society. And I was like, that's a good point. That's a way to humble you there. But, we started to think about that and started thinking about, man, my kids are going to grow up in a society with, like, are we really going to have conversations about there's, you can't say genders or anybody can use a bathroom because you can't say somebody's a boy or girl or whatever. And right and wrong have been blurred in the lines. And I think about that sometimes, and I'm like, God, I'm not bringing kids in this world, because I've talked to people that don't want to have kids because of stuff like that. But my rebuttal to that is, if you are the example that you're supposed to be, that God created you to be as a man, then your kids you should not worry about because they will lead the change.
Yeah.
They won't live in a society like that because they'll lead the change in that society. And the next generation is big. And I think men play a huge role in the next generation. That men play a huge role in stuff. That whole, strong men create good times create weak men create hard times create strong men. Yeah. That whole cyclical cycle, and that'll go on forever.
Yep.
But that was a big thing for me is, talking to it's essentially people that are listening to the podcast. And I hope that you make an impact at a big level, like what you're doing and, the moves that you're making. I think that's great. I love what you're doing 100%, but don't discount yourself if you're not doing that. Absolutely. Like if you're working a construction job or you're working in a factory or whatever, but you come home and you have a happy wife and kids that grow up understanding principles and stuff like that, like you're winning. Yeah. In my eyes, you're winning. Maybe your purpose was to be a good citizen of society and just, raise great kids that become leaders in the future, and stuff. And that's why I don't ever want anybody to listen to what the big things that people are doing and discount who they are, because you're important. Either way it goes, you're important. Don't raise shitty kids. That's what
if nothing else, just don't raise shitty kids. And I want to make, no, sorry, I cut you off.
No, that just brings up a perfect example. So my wife runs our clinic now. So I'm doing the coaching and speaking full time, but we've had a patient, he's been a patient since we opened in 2012. And older gentleman, he could have retired a few times now, but he works like oil rigging up in Alaska or something. Yeah. And he goes like for 2 weeks, he'll go up there and then be back for 2 weeks and go for 2 weeks. And the reason he does it now, he's like, I just want to go and speak Jesus to the people out there.
Nice.
Because there's people that go up there that they're living a lifestyle that's so far from God. I want to go be an example for them.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Think about that for a calling.
Yeah.
And like for me, like, yes, I had my wake up call moment that made me realize I want to go bigger, but that's because God gave me that vision.
Yeah.
Whoever's listening, God didn't give you my vision. Yeah. God's going to give you your own vision. So make sure, and part of the time is we don't give ourselves the time to listen for that, though. We're too busy, caught up in the day-to-day, and I got to go to work, I got to provide. Yes, you do. What about giving yourself the space to be like, God, what do you want from me?
Well, yeah, and that goes back to what we were talking about, like stop counting on yourself so much, and if you're not a person of faith, that's easier said than done, but and even if you are, it's easier said than done, But I have been in this, and this is a confession I'll make. We haven't even talked about this. I've been in this stage. I'm still a dude. Still using he, him pronouns. But I've been in this stage where recently where it's been, because we're all driven. We all want to do big. I think we can say whatever we want to about like we're good with God's plan for our life, and we are. But certain personalities, we're kind of like we want to go
as long as it aligns with
as long as it aligns with mine, I'm good. Yeah.
Right.
So I've been a lot lately just with the different things we have going on. I've recently started another small business. My wife has started doing some other business. Obviously, we have the podcast and the movement and Men Reforged program and all these things, and we have these grandiose dreams for them. And if they're not growing as fast as we want them to, we think we should. Or they should, then, what's wrong? What are we doing wrong? And all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of my prayer time lately has been wrapped around, God, will you please shut me up so I can hear what you want to happen and what your speed is? And not that I'm going to know the plan, not that you're going to lay it out for me and I can just be like, okay, I'm good now. That's not the goal. But a big part of the messaging for me was like, what do I really love? What do I really feel passionate about? And what I believe both of us, we feel passionate about growing men. Like that we feel like we were put here to deliver a message to men that they need to step up and play the role they were created to play. So as I'm in my prayer time, and it's literally sometimes to a point of begging, like, please let me hear something, like just like speak to me now. And the other night, and I don't even know, it wasn't like right before bed, by the bed on my knees or anything like that. It's just throughout the day praying. And I'm sitting there, I'm laying down with my two youngest boys. I just tucked them in. I'm laying down with Cash actually, and I'm, it's just they're falling asleep, and I'm in prayer in my mind, and I'm, thinking about all these things. It's been another busy, hectic day with running a small business and in the contracting world and doing all that kind of stuff, and appreciative of it, but not passionate about it. And just thinking like, what I'm really passionate about is this. And so why, but I want this to be this size. And, but then I get, get this just very clear message from God. Is like, if you really want to impact men, you got two that are laying down next to you right now.
Yep.
And what has happened in the last month or two in our household has been because of me not running somebody else's company and me running my own, my wife taking on some other roles to do some things she's been wanting to do. I literally 3 or 4 days a week, I'm with my boys for at least half, if not the whole day.
Yeah.
And I just realized in that moment, and I'm from Mississippi, I'm a little slow. I probably should have recognized this a couple weeks ago. But I'm like, look how much time I have with my 2 youngest kids, because we homeschool our 6-year-old and then the other one's 3, and ain't nobody gonna let him come to school when it's time. I mean, it's just they won't take him.
I got one of those.
Yeah, you got one of those too. I know. But it just became so clear, like what JP, when you were just talking about that, now it was really resonating with me. Of, what can I do in this 4 to 6 hours now that I used to not have almost every day, where I can truly impact. So, and I'm saying all that and using a lot of air, because I know there's other dudes out there that are like, I don't know that I'm ever going to have a platform where I have 10,000 people listening to me or 100,000 people listening to me. Yeah, but do you have one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you have one set of ears that's going, Dada, what do you think?
You got some little ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, God's giving you this vision. So lean into that. Don't let anybody stop you from that. But we do look at other people that have movements and doing different things. Like, man, I wish I was doing that. And that's just human nature.
Yep.
Like, we want it fast.
Yep.
But what if it's exactly the way God has it right now in this season? Because what if it did blow up and you guys are traveling and speaking and doing things and you didn't have that time with your kids?
Yep.
Maybe it's my man over here who you guys get to connect with here that's listening to your podcast and being around you guys. What if it's the people in your life right now for this season is who you're supposed to impact?
Yeah. No, and that's one of those things that comes in with like patience and stuff. And that's a difficult thing for me. And I'm reading a book called Becoming a King. Great book. I would recommend. It's the second time that I've read through the book. But there's a big part in there that talks about patience and persistence, but that quiet time. Like if you're not quiet for a certain amount of time throughout the day, then you're not going to hear what you need to hear.
Yeah.
Because what you need to hear is when times are quiet. And in today's society, I mean, it's even more difficult than what it used to be, because used to, you would turn on the TV for like a special that was coming on. Now the TV stays on. The phone is always on notifications and stuff like that.
Yep.
The distractions are unbelievable, and you believe however you want to believe it and stuff like that. But there's a part of me that believes that the devil's winning in a lot of ways, which was by design. That's what was going to happen in the long run, was the devil was going to start to win, and then things were going to be set back to where they should have been.
Goes, gotcha, bitch.
Yeah. It's all going to be set back to the way it was supposed to be. But there's a and that's why we're a big proponent. And I'm saying this because I need to personally hear it. We talked about this before. Sometimes you need to talk about things so that you can hear yourself say it and then come back and listen to it and go, all right, listen, retard. You need to start like doing what you're saying, and not be a hypocrite about stuff. No. But that quiet time that is so difficult to obtain. I've got, 4 kids and a lot of distractions that I can make excuses with, or I can take that time because I understand that 20 minutes, 30 minutes of just silent time to meditate or whatever, pray, whatever it is that you do, can really spend some time with yourself and actually hear what you need to hear.
Right. Yeah. And that's actually one of the first things I give my clients is booking strategic thinking time in your day. Because especially as men, like we're go, let me solve this problem, we do this, and then things come up, how do I fix it, what's my next move? But that's not when you solve your problems.
Right.
You solve your problems in the quiet time. Praying, meditating, receiving the answer comes in the quiet time. God's always speaking to us. Question is, are you going to be quiet enough to listen?
Yep.
Because he'll reveal the answer to you. And that's why we get answers in the shower. Like, we get this great idea. You guys have probably had podcast topics, whatever you guys want to talk about. When you're actually quiet, when you're not distracted, that's when those things come to you. So the more quiet time you can book in, and it's hard, one, because there is so much distraction from kids to I got to go work, whatever the things are. Yeah. But then also people aren't used to being quiet.
Yep.
And then they're like, oh, I need to grab my phone and look through the notifications and do this or that, versus training yourself to be quiet.
The urge to do that is unreal. Like,
Yeah.
and
To look-
it
to
is
look
for
for
me.
something.
Yeah, if it's quiet and I'm sitting
Yeah.
there for 5 minutes and
yeah.
it's quiet, like I'm sitting here
Should be
thinking,
doing something.
should I be
Yeah.
doing something? That's exactly what
Well,
goes through my head.
This is why half the time I run is not for exercise. It's because I feel
Quiet
like
time.
I'm doing something, but I'm also being quiet.
Like,
I don't
yeah,
listen to music when I
100%.
run.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll listen to podcasts every now
Yeah.
and then. If I'm really struggling, I'll put some music on to finish. But
Right,
you know,
right.
but a lot of times that's when I can think
Yeah.
and be awake. You know, be quiet.
But
stuff
that's
like that.
I sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I did you first, so we're even.
Well, so that's in my mind, that's the biggest difference in living a life where it's like ready, fire, aim versus ready, aim, fire.
Yeah.
That is the difference. That meditation time, that thinking time, that ability to strategize in your life and to listen to what really needs to be done as opposed to just reacting and being reactive to life is the difference between ready, fire, aim, and ready, aim, fire is people that actually take the time to spend that 30 minutes, hour, whatever, if you're disciplined enough to take an hour of just silent time to sit there, that's huge. And I think people really, really underestimate, and I think men especially really underestimate that. And if you can't take that time to be with yourself alone, then you have more issues that you need to fix. Like
Right.
that, it's not an easy thing to be with yourself if you're
Yeah.
not happy with yourself.
Yeah,
You know,
and it
that's
does
tough.
take practice. And that's
Yep.
why meditation is a practice. But that's the number one thing for anybody listening. I would recommend start meditating, even if it's 5 minutes a day, 5 to 15 minutes. Start there. And I was the person I wouldn't meditate because I was the high performer. I'm like, I got stuff to do. I don't have time to just sit here. What could I be doing instead of doing that? And I was actually walking through an airport, and there was a book, 10% Happier. It was written by Dan Harris from like ABC World News Tonight. And he told his story, how he got into meditating, like, because it's a high performing job to be an anchor on the World News Tonight.
Mhm.
And like, he was on cocaine, he was on all these things to keep him amped up. And he actually had a panic attack live on air. And he was like, man, I got to do something different. So he gets a journey on how he started meditating. And he even wrote another book called Diary of a Fidgety Skeptic. Like, talking about like, because we are skeptical about meditation. Does it even work? Like,
sure.
so it actually helps lead people into why you should start meditating and how to do it. But the power in meditation is huge because of all the things you just talked about. It's like, that's when you get the answers. That's when you can actually have the strategic next move, not just what I think I should do in the moment, but no, and actually thought through
Non-emotional.
yeah,
decisions.
non-emotional, yeah, in the moment. So yeah, definitely that's number one. Start meditating.
Well, and I think another benefit of that is you start to figure out who you are.
Yeah.
Like that's where a lot of people are lost. A lot of people just kind of ebb and flow throughout life because like society says to go this way, they go that way. Society says to go that way, they go that way because they've never actually taken the time to understand who they are.
Right.
And what, like we talked about, what your calling is. Because some people, I think finding your purpose and your calling in life is very difficult.
Yeah,
Like it's not an easy thing. So
Right.
if you haven't found it yet, don't get discouraged because it's not an easy thing to do. But it does take that quiet time. It takes that time to be able to sit there and meditate or whatever it may be, pray, however you want to take your quiet time. But it exposes to you who you are because you have conversations with yourself very intimately in that time. Whereas outside of that, it's everything reacting to you, right? So it's the outside world influencing you in all kinds of different directions, especially with technology today. But I think there's tons of benefits, obviously, and there's probably a good reason why you tell everybody to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it was life-changing for me. But like you said, most people, their excuse is I don't have time.
Right.
And there's actually a saying in meditation, if you don't have 20 minutes to meditate, you need to meditate for 2 hours because that's how chaotic your life is.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good
So
point.
just starting 5 to 15 minutes a day and just get yourself used to the silence. And a lot of there's a misconception of you don't think thoughts. And like the thoughts are always going to come, but you get trained to kind of letting those thoughts go versus chasing down rabbit holes.
Yeah.
But the more you can just start getting yourself into that practice, and just do it consistently, though. Consistency is the key in anything in life. But if you can just do it daily, this is something, even you got to wake up 5 minutes early to get the 5 minutes of meditation in, make the time because it's an investment. That one investment is going to give you amazing return.
Well, it's interesting that, you're talking about comfort to calling and how you get there is one of the most uncomfortable things to do, which is sit with yourself in silence. I mean, like,
Absolutely.
especially as dudes, like you said, I mean, it is just,
It's
it drives me nuts.
It's
but-
excruciating.
Right, right.
Yeah, it is. But but that should tell you something. We've talked about this a ton of times.
Yeah.
Like when it's uncomfortable, that should be a trigger
Yeah.
Right.
that this is probably good or it could probably lead to growth. You know, if it's really this uncomfortable.
And that brings up one of the biggest things I learned from Tony Robbins years ago is the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions that you ask.
Mm-hmm.
So those questions start to come up. So maybe you're sitting there and maybe you start to question, well, why am I like that? Why do I feel like I need to always be getting stuff done versus no, I can have some time for myself? And when you start asking yourself the questions, you start getting better answers.
Yeah.
And you actually start to get the answer. Well, no, I feel like that because I feel like I have to perform for everybody, whatever it is. And you can actually start to analyze, man, you know what? That's been a lie the whole time. I don't have to perform for anybody.
No.
Like I know who I am. I know who I am in God. I know who I am in my family, the example for my kids. And you can actually start to get your own answers to the problems that are going on in your life if you give yourself the space to ask yourself the questions and listen for the answer.
Yeah, and it's pretty funny because how you kind of molded that right there. We were talking about this before we started. My wife and I's biggest problem was saying no to things, which creates a hectic, very busy lifestyle. Not productive, but busy.
Big difference.
And it's always like, and I'm going to be honest with you and be very candid. There's parts of like the church, church's got this going on. We got to go serve over here. We got to go do this. We got to go here. We got to be part of this youth thing. And there was almost like this guilt associated with it. Like if there's youth involved, we got to be involved. If the church is doing something they need help, we got to be involved, which I'm not discouraging anybody from doing things like that. But if it's stealing your joy in life and you're not progressing, and it's damaging to you and stuff like that, like there's times where you have to learn how to say no. Yeah, sometimes no is your best yes, right? Sometimes no, like, hey, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to spend time with my family tonight, and we're going to spend time together, like in a manner of I'm not going to feel guilty for sitting here for 3 hours in the floor accomplishing absolutely nothing because I'm scribbling on paper with my kids and joking around. Now, it might seem like in today's society that I'm not achieving anything, but I'm building really strong bonds with my kids. I'm building strong bonds with my wife. Now, I may not be monetarily progressing in my career or whatever it may be, but there's other aspects of what you need to accomplish as a man. And I think that that's something that my wife and I are working on, just be 100% transparent, that has stole joy from us in our lives is constantly saying yes to everything. Like, oh yeah, we'll do that. Okay, we'll be there. We'll do this. Okay, hold on. Can we figure it? Well, we got 15 minutes in between. We could probably make the drive in that 15 minutes, and then we'll go perform. Like I'm the monkey with the tambourine, just walking around doing this for everybody. And it's almost a miserable place to be. Yeah. And it's something that obviously 35 years old and really starting to understand that. Sometimes you just got to say no to stuff like that. Sometimes you need that quiet time. Sometimes you need that time where you just don't do shit. I mean, you're just together,
right?
And I would like to know, like, from a meditation standpoint, like, what does that, if you don't mind sharing, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. Well, first let me speak to you because I totally feel what you just said, because that was me, like saying yes to everything. And my wife and I, being in our chiropractic clinic, we served lots of people. So we're in a service-based business, serving there, serving multiple services on Sunday at church, like doing all these things, but it was wearing us out.
Oh, yeah.
And it reminded me, because I still have it in my Bible, it was like in 2014, on the pamphlet, I wrote down, the way I'm doing the work of God is destroying the work of God in me. Because I was trying to do all of these things.
Y'all can rewind that.
I was trying to do all of these things, but it was emptying me. And you can't serve out of an empty cup. So you got to fill yourself up first, which I think brings it back to that's what meditation does.
Yeah.
It allows you to fill up your cup. So then you're much more productive. You mentioned it. It's like you can be busy, but not productive.
Right.
The meditation allows you to focus on, okay, well, how can I use my time that I'm actually being busy to be productive when I'm doing that? Yeah. I think that's what it worked for me. And I've even got my wife, we do it together in the morning. We do a meditation in the morning. Sometimes I'll do it multiple times a day, because sometimes I'll do a 15-minute meditation. I definitely think some type of meditation, some type of break during the middle of the day, even if it's your lunch break, if you got an hour lunch break, spend 10 minutes just breathing. Taking a deep breath, because I got a chiropractic background too, so I know the science of the physiology, but just breathing. Well, because we're in fight or flight most of the day. Yeah. We're just going. fight or flight was designed if a tiger comes in here, we need to run.
Yeah.
Oh man,
our pupils dilate, our blood pressure raises, our blood goes to our extremities because we need to either fight or flight. It goes away from our digestive system, so it shuts down. Our sex organs shut down, which is a lot of
never good.
Yeah, a lot of men listening for like impotence, things like that, because your body's in fight or flight all the time. So we need to switch out of the fight or flight into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is it's like feed and breed is what it's called. So you're actually digesting. Your sex organs are working. You got all that stuff
Sounds
going
way
good.
nicer than the other one.
So meditation will help your sex life. If that you're listening, that's the one thing you get. That's why you should meditate.
Yep.
But no,
That's
it does help
Copy
you.
that.
I'm in.
It does help you
No, you
recenter
stop. You
and
got
get
enough kids already.
refocused on really what's important in life and the next action, so they can actually be productive.
Yeah. No, that's great. I love. So I've always been like, I'm a big follower of like Jordan Peterson and like the intellects and stuff, because I love the science behind, the psychology and the physiology and stuff like that, because I believe there's a lot of connection, mind-body connection.
Absolutely.
Even with what I do for work, with the technology and everything, I've got spreadsheets and all the good technology that I do, but I still will sit at my desk and write stuff down.
Right.
Like when I'm in meetings, if I'm taking notes and stuff, I physically write it down. And I had a corporate meeting with a lot of the managers that report to me in Nashville this week, and I was writing stuff down, and they're like, "Why don't you just type it into your OneNote?" Like, there's something about a mind-body connection when I write stuff down that changes things. From a physiological to a psychological, that connection that happens when you physically do stuff, and meditation is one of those things. You get completely calm, you breathe and stuff like that, which opens up your mind and everything else. And it's funny because I did that subconsciously. Didn't even really think about it. I was just like, I'm doing this because I retain things better. I can really like put thought into what I'm writing and stuff like that. And it's funny because I had some guys, and I took the opportunity that we're talking about now to talk to the guys about that. Like, corporate, your careers and stuff like that. It's important to feed your family and stuff like that. But there's a bigger purpose to why you're here. And not to be too cliche in the corporate meetings and stuff like that, but I don't take what we do too seriously. We're moving packages and boxes and stuff like that. And
it ain't rocket science.
Some
guys.
people get so freaked out about it. And I don't know if it's
if I don't get my package on time.
I know, right? I'm telling you right now.
You gotta get those toys.
It's crazy. It is. It's absolutely asinine. But I was like, we're not like, somebody's not going to die. We're not doing a heart transplant here. We're moving boxes. So keep things into perspective. But it was a cool opportunity to kind of put that. But I really liked how you were talking about the connection between the two, and the obviously your chiropractic background really kind of probably helps you understand why the meditation, why the breathing and everything helps everything else. So
and there's a lot of science behind it, and I like studying that side of it, but you don't really need to know it. You just need to experience it. And it's all about being present. Because as you guys know, with kids, there's a lot of people that are distracted in their time with the kids. Mm-hmm. The kids don't care about the time you spend with them. They want how present are you with me right now? Because you could spend 2 hours with them and you're on your phone, they're on their video games, doing whatever. You're not present.
See, that was the second, and sorry to cut you off, but that was the second part of the messaging I was getting, was not like, hey, you're here with them, which is great.
Yeah.
But now, like, what are you doing with that time?
Yeah.
Because I was still working. A lot of what I do, I can be on the phone and just kind of making the pieces connect out in the field or whatever. But I have to have an intentional break where it's like, the boys know, hey, daddy's got to work right now. But then there should be, daddy's not got to work right now. Even put the phone on silent. Like, give them 30 minutes, give them an hour where you're dedicated to what they're doing. I mean, they're nonstop data anyways.
Yeah.
But it's one thing to just be there and to be physically present. But if you're not emotionally present, you're not intentional about the time you have with them, not to like overly, and I have to catch myself with this, like trying to teach them something every 5 seconds.
Right.
But teach them something by your example.
Yeah.
Absolutely. For sure.
And that's what meditation really just allows you to become present. And present in that moment, but then throughout the day, when stuff comes up, you're able to handle it better because of your presence. Because your power is found in your presence. And we're all powerful. Men, women, we have this power, but we lose our power because we're so distracted. We're saying yes to all these things. We lose our own power. The more our power is found in our presence, the more we can get present, the more power we have.
And, that's something you see, the more you associate with high achieving people, you sense that when you're around them.
Yeah.
You know, yourself. You can sense that you're very aware, you know, of yourself. You're self-aware.
Yeah.
You're present within yourself. I don't know how to really describe it, but you know,
Right.
but you can sense that around anybody. Like there's nothing that's like there's no tiger coming in the room in your mind.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I want to speak to that too, because a lot of people think, well, meeting somebody like that, like they're just born that way. That's who they are.
Right.
But for me, man, I was a shy, introverted kid. Like even through college, man, I took a speech class in college. I was standing there, my hands were shaking so bad, like my voice was shaking. I was like, I'm never going to speak in front of anybody again. But I knew God put this vision on, I was called. I was like, I know I need to learn how to speak to impact people. And another semester, I took a acting class in college. Like, oh, that'll help. I'll get on there. I freaking forgot my lines when I'm on stage. Like, so it's like for me, being an introvert, I'm still naturally introverted. Like, I'd love to be at home, just reading a book, chilling.
Yeah.
But I was like, but this is part of my calling. So that's that comfort to calling. You got to get uncomfortable. Yeah. You got to train yourself. And a lot of people, and that's why I hate like personality tests. Like, oh, you're an introvert, so you make an excuse where, oh, I just don't need to go socialize with people. This is just who I am.
Yeah.
Well, no, like maybe God's calling you to step out of that and actually connect with people and actually live the life that you were called to live, not just make excuses for it. So for me, I was like, I'm stepping out of that comfort zone. I'm becoming the person that I want to become, not just settling over here.
We've talked about some stuff like that, you know, in the past is the whole, like, be careful what you pray for, you know, because if you pray for strength, you'll get challenges. You know, and it's one of those things, and I'm sure that, you know, when you were younger and you were like introverted and you were nervous and you had a bad experience and stuff like that, like at that moment in time, you know, you're sitting there going, God, please give me the strength to do this. And what he did was he gave you another opportunity to speak, because the strength doesn't come as a gift. The strength comes as an opportunity to earn it.
Yeah.
You know, and I 100% believe that. And I have talked to my wife about this just recently, and I'm like, you know, I'm gonna stop praying for strength because he keeps pushing my way.
Right.
You know, that's the truth. But when you look at it, you know, the difference, you know, you look at where you were to where you are now. Yeah. If it wasn't for those challenges, you'd never be anywhere near where you are now.
Right. Yeah. And then people look at that like, and they start to question, like, well, maybe I shouldn't go this direction because things keep coming up.
Yeah.
And what if it's like, no, God's like, I want to see if he'll keep going.
Yeah.
Because what if you keep going and you realize this isn't me doing this because I don't have the strength to do it. I need God to do it.
Right. Yeah.
So he's using you as an example of, as soon as you get out of your own way, I'm going to come behind you and help you break through this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
100%, dude. That's that kind of stuff makes me giddy though, because I've been in the gym for so long, you know, and like I love the conversations where like people are like, oh, yeah, how'd you get in such good shape and doing this and that and everything? You must just have good genetics and everything. It's like, no, I keep coming in here facing the weights. Like that's what happens. Yep. I come in here and face the weights, and after 2-3 days, a week, whatever it may be, you can go to the gym. You're not going to see anything. Nothing's going to happen. But there's got to be a certain level of faith that in 6 months, there's going to be a difference, because you can't see it tomorrow. It's not going to happen. There's got to be a certain level of faith. And that goes with a lot of things, you know, just like, you know, your whole, you know, conversation about being introverted and stuff like that. Like when you, and we like to, especially with this, like, I don't want to single anybody out. If you don't believe in God right now, like we talk about all the time, you know, read the Bible, because it's probably the best piece of literature. Well, it's not probably, it is the best piece of literature that's ever been written to live a fulfilled life. If you want to live a fulfilled life. But if it's not, you know, that you don't believe in God, like God puts challenges in your way when you ask and you pray and stuff like that. Like if challenges are being presented to you, just say the universe or whatever you want to call it, that's your sign that like you're progressing, like you're being put into positions where you're kind of ascending to your calling and stuff like that. Look at that as an opportunity. That's a different kind of mind shift where I talk to people that are depressed because of, you know, like, oh, I've got this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know, dude, look at it as an opportunity. And I'm an optimist naturally. Like, I just feel like that's just how I've always been. Maybe it's just the way I was raised and stuff. But I've always looked at people and gone, dude, that's an opportunity for you to get better.
Yeah.
You know, it could always be worse. Like, it's an opportunity for you to get better. Like, some people aren't afforded the opportunity of those challenges.
Right.
Like, some people don't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
Which is a really weird way to say that for a lot of people. But if you've ever grown, Like you realize that those challenges are what make you better. I've never left the gym. I've gone to the gym and been like, oh shit, I don't want to go to the gym. I've never left the gym and gone, shouldn't have done that. Nope, shouldn't have done that.
But I have sat on the couch and ate a pizza and said that.
Exactly.
Like, man, I should have done that.
Yeah.
The challenge you don't walk away from. No, you shouldn't have done that.
That's so true though. I mean, you lean into that stuff. Like we were talking about triggers earlier. Like you lean anything that starts challenging you like that. That's when you lean into it. It's like I can't remember who it was said they don't count when they do push-ups until it starts hurting. Like till it gets hard, they don't start counting until then. Yeah. That's if you think about what he's saying. Like these didn't even count.
Yeah.
You know, but when it starts hurting, that's when I'm growing.
Yeah.
You know, and if you never want to hurt, then you will never grow. Yeah. And you will be a fat slob and useless to society. But it's true. And unfortunately, that's kind of, you know, I know we're part of society, but as a whole, that's where we're moving towards because we have tried to create so much comfort in our life.
Right.
When the real secret is get uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the gym analogies because I was a personal trainer in college. Early 20s, I did a couple bodybuilding shows, so I love those analogies. So one, there is the faith. Like, I'm going to keep showing up and something's going to happen. But then there's aligned action, too, of like, no, I'm going to push myself harder. Next time, I'm going to lift more. I'm going to go heavier. So a perfect example for me is when I wanted to squat 500 pounds. And there's just something as a guy, no matter what, bench, whatever, when you add another plate to the rack, there's just something to it. So when you get to 315.
I was putting these on.
you get 315, you get 405. And then. But mentally, what I did to go from mid 400s to 500 was each time it was leg day, I added a 2.5 pound plate. And then boom, next time I went in, that 2.5 pounds was that extra 5 pounds from the previous time. And then the 2.5 goes on, then 2.5. And I kept adding that till all of a sudden I'm squatting 500 pounds versus people are like, no, I'm going to add another 25 on both sides.
Yeah.
And then mentally, you don't hit that. And then that crushes your spirit. Oh, I can't do this.
Yeah.
But no, like I just did this the last time. I can easily do 5 more pounds, 2.5 on each side. Boom, you do it. Then the next time, it's just consistency. 100%. I can easily do 2.5 more than I did the last time. Boom. Then you look back 6 months from there, and it added up.
Like John Crow talking about the next tree.
I
ran to this tree yesterday. I'm going to run to the next one today. It's not that much further, but it's further than I went yesterday. So.
It's faith and persistence. That's what it really is. It's faith and persistence. And we underestimate ourselves big time. I mean, we naturally underestimate ourselves. I mean, even like if you've ever owned a business or ever sold anything, you always undervalue your product or whatever it may be. It's pretty natural. I mean, you have some people that probably go in the opposite direction. But one of the things that I love about the gym and personal training and that whole realm is that you realize that there's more in the tank. You just didn't know it was there, but there's always more in the tank. And that's something that I have learned how to tell myself. And we talked about this, a while back when we first started was, one of my mottos was always one more, always one more, do one more and stuff. And now it's just kind of, there's always more in the tank because I've proven to myself time and time and time and time again that I can do more than I thought I could. And even if that's in those situations where it may be a fear of speaking in front of people, you walk up in front of, speaking to people and stuff like that. But I bet you've never left, a event where you spoke in front of people and walked back there and just went, I'm just exhausted. Anymore. Like you were fired up out of your freaking mind. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm a superhero.
Right. Well, like even this, like being here, recording this on a Friday evening and we're hanging out, but it's because, yes, we could be hanging out with our wives doing date night, but it's like, no, this is our time. Like we need this because this is part of our calling. And for me, I work with a lot of people on limiting beliefs and changing their story and rewiring the subconscious mind because it comes down to we don't believe in ourselves. It's all belief. And I believe most people don't get what they want in life because the stories they keep telling themselves of why they can't have it. And the reality is it's all about belief. So an easy thing to do is think about the people that you look up to, whether it's speakers, maybe the people that have these big movements. If they were in your situation, you would have no doubt that they could overcome the challenges that you have because you believe in them.
That's a good point.
But what if you believed in yourself as much as you believe in them? Or think about your kids, the people that look up to you. Maybe your spouse, maybe your parents, maybe the people around you look up to you because they believe in you. What if you believed in yourself as much as they believe in you?
My 3-year-old, and this is one of the most humbling things I heard just a couple days ago. He goes, Dada, he's like, you're the boss. You're always the boss. And you know everything and you can do everything just out of nowhere. And I was like, whew, no pressure, So,
then you start believing
but you think about
what if you believed in you much as they believe in you.
Exactly right. I told JP when we confirmed that you were going to be in, I said one of the coolest things about this is we get him for an hour for free. So like I've learned a lot tonight.
Oh, 100%.
I know your clients are growing because I hear what you're speaking into them and you're helping them understand and do for themselves. So in the interest of time, we're going to start wrapping up, but like let people know how they can find you so I don't butcher it.
Yep. Yeah. So biggest thing, connect with me on Facebook, or Instagram, either one, Dr. Justin Moseley. But I do have a free Facebook group, the Mindset Doctor Community. And then, just keep up with my story. I have a TEDx talk that I'm doing in April of next year.
I heard that. That's awesome, dude.
So, I'm going to be sharing my journey on Instagram. So feel free to follow along. If anything that I said resonated, reach out. Reach out to these guys. 100%. I mean, we put content out because we want to make an impact. So if you guys are listening to them and it made an impact, just let them know. Like, man, I love what you're doing. I love what you talked about, because that keeps us going. So, just feel free, connect with me. If you want to jump on a call, I'm free to do that as well. Just here to serve.
That's awesome. You got anything else you want to add?
No, I appreciate you coming. I really do, man. It's always good to be with like-minded individuals, especially a little bit farther along in the journey than we are right now. Appreciate what you're doing 100%, man. So anybody that's listening to this right now, connect with him, follow his stuff. I promise you won't be disappointed. You won't do anything but benefit from it. So make sure you take advantage of that. Sharp, a lot of good things coming. A lot of relationships that I 100% believe that we're going to build within the community of men that are doing big things like he is. So definitely get in there and get a follow.
The Nashville movement is a real thing.
I think it is too, man. Absolutely, I really do.
It's a real thing. And there's so many people like ourselves that are either already here or just moved here or they're planning on moving here. And I don't think it's by accident. I think it's by design.
And they're all kick-ass too.
They really are.
They're all kick-ass,
Yeah. So we're pumped about being in the room with them and with you. And we really do appreciate you being here. It means a lot.
Man. Yeah, I enjoy this, man. It's just part of my calling. Love hanging out. And then, like, when we first connected to that event, like, I saw something in you guys. Like, I believe in you guys and this movement you're creating. So I'm excited. I've seen you grow so much already, and just since I've known you, and I'm excited for where this is going to go.
A lot more to come. A lot more to come as for you as well. So we'll be doing some things in the future together, I'm sure. I have no idea where I'm looking. Hey, what's up? Our camera got moved. That's how good our producer is. He's mobile.
I don't even know.
We will be doing some more things in the future together. We're looking forward to that. Find Dr. Justin Moseley, the Mindset Doctor, on social media. Connect with him. Definitely, as he said, reach out. If something impacted you, resonated with you, let him know. That really is fuel, and all that fuel does is allow us to go out and help more people. So you've been a part of the movement.